What's up, YouTube? What goes on, YouTube? YouTube, talk to me, YouTube.
What go on?
Respond to me, YouTube. No, that's a bad. We'll slide into that accent. Everybody, what's up? We're the North End. We are a YouTube fan channel for all things Premier League, I guess World Cup, and spattering of other things like Champions League here and there, whatever. If you like the show, please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment to us. We are live. We're going to chat a little bit about the Premier League. Throw us your comments as we get going. But largely what we're all about is liking and subscribing because we really want to turn this into something that pays our bills. And so far, that's not working.
A bit of the bill, even.
And we've been doing it for 15 years.
Feels like it, yeah.
I don't know if we have enough to buy a chocolate bar. Sad. But, I mean, fun, I guess. Guys, we haven't talked in a while because there was a little thing called the World Cup that, stopped all Premier League action, and we were a Premier League show, so we kind of just packed up and watched a World Cup that I think, Brian and I were talking about this before we got on, was, if you squinted and forgot all the bad stuff, Qatar was a pretty enjoyable tournament.
Yeah. The football story was great. Sorry, JP. The football side of it was great. It was incredibly entertaining in so many ways from a footballing perspective, and some great upsets, some great storylines, some of the best against the best in the final. Just a really, really great storytelling for a sport that unfortunately in a location that in a time of year never should have happened. Lived up to the hype. It was incredible. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the shit out of it.
JP, what's the take from America, from the California?
The American, how do I put this in the most nicest way? The ignorant American who watches 4 matches of football a year were probably just over the moon with how great this World Cup was, and to even be involved in it this time was probably glorious for the average American. For someone who follows soccer quite heavily, I kind of am with you guys that there was some great play and some great on-field work, and there was some very disappointing results for some teams that you expect a little bit more from. And then, there was the whole background of let's just hear all the background noise of Qatar this whole time. Sure. Just kind of like don't get me wrong, there's a lot of terrible stuff that was going on, but it also is like, damn, can we just play the damn games, get through it?
It's kind of what happened, JP, though. Like all of the bad stuff ended, or at least seemingly was forgotten about for the period of time that the football happened.
Right.
Which is what you'd expect. I mean, that's what happens during World Cups. Same thing happened with Russia. Russia didn't have as much of a controversy with it, but still enough of a controversy that once the games start, the people who are whinging about it still want to watch football and will watch.
Yep, totally.
I
can see his dad getting ready to just pound his fingers down on his phone right now to comment.
Yeah.
So roundtable question real fast. Best moment of the World Cup for you?
Best moment of the World Cup. Oh man. Do you know it first, JP? I think probably that final to me, the final was the best final of any tournament I've ever watched. So I'd have to say the final, but I know that's broad. So if you're getting specific,
I would love to say. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say if you're getting specific moments, I'd have to think about it for a while because there's some great little specific moments throughout the course of it. But I mean, that final is unbelievable.
I mean, my specific best moment was Harry Kane sailing that PK just astronomically. Like, oh my goodness, that thing is still in orbit. Because I feel like Brian's soul just kind of left him for a solid second.
It's a good shot. It did actually. It was pretty painful.
And as I was sitting with all the English people, we were all getting ready to celebrate, and like that happened. I just sat down. I was like, "Well, that's it for England. That's over."
Yeah. I mean, the fact that that's your favorite moment is kind of sad, but also you support the U.S., so I get it.
Yeah, and I support England in some way, but that was still like a special moment. I thought Brazil going out after all their dancing was really special as well.
I like their dance. I think Morocco's story is obviously is exciting as well. But there's so much. That's the thing. We keep naming so many things, and there's so many things that happened that, wow, it was just a great story. Obviously, the Messi and Mbappe story in the end, the way that finished was very cool as well.
And like that Germany, the game, who did they play? Was it South Korea or Japan? I don't remember.
Yeah,
all these teams starts to just boggle into one.
I think it was Japan.
Japan. Yeah, that was so like their games were so good. And
I'm going to go with Canada's national anthem being played at a World Cup.
That's a good shout.
I'm more patriotic than Brian.
Yeah, you are. It's true, you are, because I do think like the Canadian story got lost very quickly because of how
poor they were.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think the first game we played very good game. Just got a bit unlucky and didn't have enough in the final third. But I do think that there's a lot of room for improvement. I think that the fact that that's the sentiment that the national anthem was played is like that's a bit like kind of shit. Like that's shittier than.
No,
I mean,
it was just an exciting moment to like
I feel like
realize that you're in the
World
Cup. Like that moment where you realize that, oh my God, we are here. We're in the World Cup. And that first game against Belgium was exciting.
But the goal, the first goal we scored to me was more interesting than that idea. But it's a similar sentiment. So it's the same.
Yeah. And then the worst moments, I'm just going to end mine real fast. Poking the bear, the Canadian manager deciding to poke the bear that is Croatia was the second worst moment for me. The worst moment was the behavior of all of Team Argentina as they beat the Dutch in what can only be described.
I didn't have a problem with any of that because they
got 13-year-old boys.
They were provoked. They were provoked the day before by some Dutch pundits, including some of the ones who were on the pitch in that scenario, and they had a reason to be pissed off about what happened on the pitch. I'm not saying like they should all be babies, but it's two-sided. The Dutch were being whingy the day before. So
I mean, whatever got them the win, like whatever they used to fuel the fire, they got the win. But like at the same time, it's like you're on a global stage. Be aware.
They don't care.
Be a little classy. Like that was pretty.
I thought what the Dutch did the day before. Some of the what's his name, the famous Dutch striker. He said some really shitty things about the Argentinian team and put them down in media. So.
To the best of my knowledge, he was not the ones playing them. They were like their behavior towards their opponents after 90 plus minutes was pretty gross.
Yeah, the team themselves. I get the dancing beside them or whatnot or celebrating.
I mean, all that shit. Yeah. Like
there was a bit of that. There was a bit of that in a few different occasions. The French did a bit of that as well when Kane missed Mbappe and Giroud both went in his face and laughed, and then Romero did the same back to Mbappe when he lost, which I thought was a nice little.
I like it when teams are classy,
but I also like a little bit of shithousery too. Like I do think it adds to the entertainment value of it.
A smidge, but like to a degree where like if you're walking off the pitch and you are yelling at opponents after you've just eliminated them, and it's maybe the manager of an opponent or like just things where like, okay, come on, like you're at least very least be aware that you're on camera right now and there are kids watching you. Like you are going to be looked up to by a lot of people. Just behave.
Yeah, they weren't the only team to do it, but I agree. It is you got to be careful.
Nobody
they were the worst though.
Everyone's happy Messi won, but no one wants to look at that interview. Where he's in the middle of the interview and he turns, he says, "Yeah, what are you looking at? Walk away, walk away." And it's like the game's over, dude.
Oh my God!
Why are you so?
But what's the context in that? Do you guys know who he was talking to and why? I mean,
I'm pretty sure it was Weghorst, the big Dutch striker that scored the 2 goals to tie the game. He was filmed at the same time.
I didn't see the other side of it. So that's
talking to one of the guys in the tunnel, shaking hands and kind of waiting for Messi to be done his interview so that he could shake hands with Messi. And then he got confronted by Sergio Aguero, who all of a sudden is like everywhere.
I saw him out of nowhere. Every video.
So Aguero comes up to him and Aguero's like spitting fire at him, saying, "Get out of here with the bud." Like he's saying all these like very confrontational things to a guy twice his size, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think Messi saw that and Messi was yelling over like, "Get out of here, idiot." Because everybody was assuming the big Dutch giant was coming from Messi's head when all he was doing was very calmly saying,
"Say hello." And
I just wanted to say congratulations. He's like a great player, blah blah blah. But
I didn't know the context of it. That's why I asked. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. There's shithousery, but it's part of the story. It's part of the reason we're going to talk about it the next.
Oh, we lost JP.
Yeah, he said he'll be back in a sec. So.
Well,
but yeah,
I don't like empty chairs. Screw him.
Get out of here, JP.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, we should get on to the Premier League chat. I mean, it's nice to talk about the World Cup. It's over. It was a good tournament, but
the Premier League is back, and it's starting
really
on
looking
Boxing Day.
To what we got going on. You've got some slates set up here.
I thought what we could do today is not talk about slates like they're a real thing. Nobody cares about that language. Let's go team by team, and let's talk about implications coming out of the World Cups, injuries, some returning players,
get to that,
and because it's happening really quick on the bounce, the January transfer window. Because I think
one relates to the other.
We're going to go through a very condensed, high-intensity, nutty period where all the games are going to be coming fast and thick. Injuries are going to be happening. Returns
exactly
from World
the same
Cups.
Before the World Cup, so it's not much different than that.
This is very truncated version of that, though. So let's start with Arsenal. Currently first in the league. Gabriel Jesus out for what is expected to be, if not the entire season, a big chunk of the season. They don't have a striker. Like Nketiah is the guy everybody keeps talking about as he can do a job, and he obviously had some time last season where he stepped in and scored some goals. I think he had a decent goal scoring record, but like
but it was like 5 matches
to that Arsenal team up front. Though.
He's not the guy, but also at the same point, he was just given a large contract in the summer to stay at Arsenal, and he is in fact the guy. He is the understudy to Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
And if they thought he was good enough to give the contract to, then do they need to go out and buy somebody, or are they just relying on somebody they think can do the job? Personally, I think they need to spend and they need to buy a striker. It's one thing to maybe have a backup in place, but I think they're maybe closer to where they needed to be against City than they maybe even have in their plans. Like going into Christmas ahead of City is the time to spend some money and get that striker that can maybe push you over the line. Because how often are you going to be like this close to City or anybody in first place if you're Arsenal at Christmas?
Like, I think Paul, the interesting about all this too is that Jesus not just a striker, and I think most of us would agree he didn't score a lot of goals in his last 4 or 5 games. He was actually in a pretty big rut goal scoring wise, but what he was involved in for setting up goals and creation in that role that he's playing is the thing that I think they'll miss more than the goals. I think you can get a player to come on and score 4 or 5 goals, but can you get a player to do what he's doing? He's kind of doing what Kane does for Spurs, and to some extent, to compare it to something where he drops deep a touch, he pulls in other players, he pulls other players out, makes space, and they're creating because of it. They lose that, and they've lost a lot because bringing a player in who does that is not as simple as bringing in somebody who can just score goals. And you just bringing in Nketiah doesn't give you that. Like, he's not going to give you that. He's going to give you a 9 in the box, and there'll be those chances, but the reason they're getting so many chances and there's clinicals there is because Jesus is making space or making goals with either assists or pre-assists. You know, he's just been so good for them in that sense. And it's hard for me to talk about, obviously, as a rival, but when you look at them on paper, the reason they're as good as they are up top is because of Gabriel Jesus. It's a big
I believe the term is a false 9.
Yeah, false 9. Yeah, would be.
But I think they should have been also in the market regardless of.
I agree for sure. And
Gabriel Jesus was not injured, I think I would have been sitting here going, they need to spend some money.
What if he gets injured? What do we
on a more traditional 9? Somebody they can come off the bench, somebody mix it up. Because my sentiment is spend now, because like now is the time. Like you've built this team to get within a competitive touching.
It's what teams with ambition do,
City.
For sure. Yep.
Let's spend some money now. So, anyways, the rumors with these guys, they're a bit weird because Modric is this young guy. Modric is this young guy who is a bit of a winger, who plays in a not competitive league. Let's face it. He's been attached to Arsenal for months now. But is he the guy they need if they're looking to replace what Gabriel Jesus brings? Do they have enough money to bring him in plus somebody else? Or do they have to now prioritize a striker or a false 9? And then in that case, I think a lot of clubs are going to get attached to this guy. João Felix is not working out after a very substantial transfer to AC Milan a few years ago. Oh, sorry, not AC Milan. No AC Milan.
Yeah,
I thought Madrid. It's been a minute. I haven't done this in a while. And it is in the shop window 100% as described by the CEO of Atleti. He is looking to move on. Is it a loan? Is it a loan with option to buy or a requirement to buy, or is it a straight up sale? For me, if they pick up anybody in January that I think does what they need, that could be a real inspired purchase, João Felix within this Arsenal setup is a really strong option.
Do you think so? I mean, I like him as a player. I wonder how he will, because he's struggled at Atletico for physicality. And physicality, as we all know in the Premier League, is going to be considerably more. I think he gets beat up a little bit, but maybe he's bulked up. Maybe
I think he struggles more with the Simeone physicality, not the actual league. I think it's more like playing in a system that Simeone has them playing in, where everybody has to be able to tackle like a defender.
I was thinking more about him getting knocked off the ball, though, because I saw him quite a bit in the Champions League, and I saw him like when he came on, which he often did as a sub. His physicality would just be, he may, and maybe that's because he's trying to go into tackles. And maybe,
honestly, I've never heard anybody. A lot of analysis, his being slight or getting knocked off the ball has never really come up. I mean, he is a guy who runs at players, and he is a guy who runs around guys, and that
he does.
You invite getting knocked off balls sometimes when that happens, but
what's up, Bobby?
For me, it kind of goes back to my point. It's like what could have been the ideal scenario is to have Gabriel Jesus and João Felix, and I think all of a sudden you got
that's a connection, right?
Yeah. But now I'm like, I don't even know that if you bring him in, like you're just basically going back to what you had with João Felix. Like I still think that if they're going to do anything against City this year, they needed to bring in more than what they had to get into this position.
Add-ons, not replacements.
Yeah. So I feel like for sure they have to bring somebody in. If they don't bring in anybody, I actually don't even know if I feel fully comfortable that they finish in second or third anymore. Like I could see them slipping down to fourth because somebody else is going to get injured. Saka or somebody's gonna give them more.
I said pain. when we were sort of, and Paul, I think you agreed as well. Sorry to interrupt, JP, because I saw your hand up there. But when we first started talking about whether Arsenal could go all the way, it was always as if, can they get through an injury? Can they get through the Europa League? Can they get through the Europa League with an injury? And that's now where they are, right? They've got the biggest player that they brought in is injured. They've got to get through all the games that, as you said, Paul, are going to happen thick and fast in January and February, and they've lost their biggest player for most of that period of time. You need depth, man, and they don't have it. They don't have their young team that's well coached with some key players that if they go out, they're kind of fucked. And I think that's where they are at the moment. I don't know what Bobby, I'm not posting that, but you start with that.
That's just not happening, Bobby.
Bobby's joking, by the way. He's completely taking.
I think João Felix is a great player for Arsenal. I think that he would just slip into their squad. I don't know if he would start, but I think he's a great player. Like he just seems like he would fit the Arteta away. Yeah, but I don't think he's the Gabriel Jesus plug-in. Like I just don't see him as that false nine role. I don't see him doing the same things to keep the system ticking in this moment. I think they need to find a more legit striker, not a target guy, but definitely that 9 who's a little bit bigger build than João Felix with still the feet skills. And the biggest thing for me is that his movement skills. Gabriel Jesus is so good off the ball, where it's just where he only has 15 yards of space, but he knows where to go to open the spaces up and to keep the ball moving, ticking. Mm-hmm. And for me, João Felix is a great player. He's just not that in a false 9. So I would love to see them get somebody else that would play into this system.
Like January is a hard time to buy. Man.
Like
not easy.
Who are you going to find somebody that's going to step in?
You got to get real lucky, and somebody has to work in a system perfectly. And I think João Felix arguably would still be a great pickup. It's just he's not going to win them the league. He might keep them in the top 4, but he's not going to win them the league.
I think that's probably the consensus we're going with here. Like, unfortunate. I mean, even if João Felix and Gabriel Jesus were together, I kind of think Man City, I just think they're going to be better. Like,
over a course of time, inevitably with the players.
So Man City, no major injuries. They have had the most minutes played in the World Cup than any team that sent players to the World Cup. They've dominated, which is what you'd expect. But the reality is a lot of those minutes were played very early. Not a lot of those minutes were played deep into the finals. A lot of guys should be comfortable coming back. Kevin De Bruyne avoided injury, played 3 games.
Was terrible.
That was weeks ago.
So bad.
He's back. He's already playing friendlies with Haaland, and they're teaming up and smashing guys. So I think that the thing I would point out with Man City is that they're coming back from this break healthier, if anything.
Yeah.
Kyle Walker
with a lot of players who are in form because of the World Cup as well. So, just really excited about
what they Kyle Walker is the one guy I'm going to point out the most, though, because I mean, Stones did an admirable job playing on the right wing for Man City, but like we're talking about Kyle Walker and Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland now, like.
Yeah.
Like that's
Alvarez coming back too after winning it is
let's not get overblown about that. Like that's not. No, everybody's gonna start talking about Alvarez. He's a bench player.
All I'm saying, Paul, is I'm not Alvarez is going to come in and all of a sudden start playing regularly every week. I'm saying that what that brings to a dressing room when players come back, having one fit and the motivation there, and in the dressing room, all these players who have done really well, they're all coming back to their club team, and that's gonna just spark everybody to go on, and I think Man City will dominate the second half of the season because of it.
Well, keep that in mind when we get to Man United then. But what I will point out is that they don't have any real holes to fill in the squad, and that's like the classic advantage that Manchester City have right now is that they're not looking to fill anything. If anything, they're looking for what happens next year.
Yeah,
you know what? So the seemingly
turnover.
seemingly top rumor with them right now is that probably, if not the official young player of the tournament, certainly like one of the top candidates is the Croatian Gvardiol from RB Salzburg or RB Leipzig.
Leipzig, I think it is.
To be purchased for a lot of money and then loaned out back to the club they're purchasing from for the remainder of the season, which makes the purchase a lot easier, a lot more straightforward. And then he gets embedded in next year, which is just crazy. Like this is where we are right now. Man City, who have 55 center backs, can go and get the next best thing as a center back and not even plan to use him for another year. And they're going to spend 90 million on this guy, if not more. It's nuts.
Not only that, but like when they buy players, they don't buy them necessarily for that year. They buy them for a year ahead. So they might be buying this guy.
That's what I'm saying.
But they might get it
preparation, right? They're so ahead of everybody.
Years out, really, it's crazy.
Teams do this though. Like this is not the first. Like Spurs did this with Dele Alli. They paid only $5 million, which is obviously historical, kind of like cheap for what they got,
right?
For a period of time. But you're looking for those young players in different leagues, and if you see something that fits your system, but you're like they still need to develop. They're playing under a good coach who suits our system. Let's just loan him back and let him keep doing what he's doing. He's good for a reason. Let's stick.
Yeah, but Brian, people don't spend 90 million to do that.
Yeah.
Like teams don't spend 90 million to loan him right back.
I did clarify that the difference was the price, and that Dele was $5 million. He's 90.
Right. But that point of clarification makes the two things completely unrelated.
Well, no, but they're related. I know, but he didn't even let me finish. That was literally what I was getting to the end point, was that the difference is that Man City has the money to do it for the highest level player, multiple different players, and nobody else does. But teams do it all the time. It's just the levels of what they're able to get out of it.
Teams buy guys ahead of time all the time, but the problem is Man City do it. They buy the most expensive guy. They wait 2 years, and then they still win a league title by 20 points.
Yeah. They're cheating. We're aware of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand by. Teams do not do this all the time. Like this, no team
talking about Man City cheating anymore.
I don't think any team's ever spent 90 million plus on a player and said, "Oh, but you can keep him for a while longer."
Maybe not. Maybe that's the dramatic difference.
Is going to be pretty nuts. The only guy I can think of is Ketchia for Liverpool, who's loaned back to an RB team. I can't remember who it was, and he was bought for like 60 million.
It was RB Red. It was Red Bull, I think.
Yeah. But anyways, the point being,
Leipzig.
Man City are coming out of this World Cup. Maybe if they weren't fit and firing
golden
before,
motivated, nothing in the way.
We're talking about Pep Guardiola's. He has them coasting the first half of the season. He's going to come in hard. They're going to hit that gear that we know they have, and
right after January, and just smash.
Yeah, it's going to be not fun for anybody to watch.
I can't wait to see
this one's interesting.
40 goals.
Newcastle, who are in conversation for top 6 because they earned their way into conversation for top 6.
Well, they're in third right now, so
no major injuries. If anything, they have a little bit of time because of the World Cup to heal somebody. Isaac, the Swedish striker,
a lot of money.
Swiss. one of those two. Who, I mean,
Wilson guys got to step for a second.
The idea being that if Wilson gets injured, this guy was always going to be there to help them out. He's come back. He's going to be, I think, an important player for them for the remainder of the season.
When he played, he looked good.
This is where it gets really interesting, though. This is where the new money version of Newcastle can walk into January and say, okay, what are we missing? What do we need? We need some sort of creative spark in our attacking. We've got strikers. We've got big bodies. I've got a reliable defense. We need somebody to generate opportunities for these guys. They've got a bankroll. They're not going to be afraid of January prices. So the rumors of these guys become very interesting as well, because all of a sudden João Felix becomes a real option for them, whereas before, not plausible, not going to be happening. Jamie Madison, who would be, I think, a perfect fit for them. Leicester will sell him for a lot of money. Newcastle have the money. I could see this happening, but it would be a big concession on Leicester's part to say we can do without him for the rest of the season, given that they're pretty low on the table.
I mean, they're getting better, but they are still struggling.
Yeah. And then I think a very plausible destination for a loan for Pulisic for Chelsea would be Newcastle. This rumor kind of floats in and out a little bit. It's not the hottest of the rumors, but for me, as soon as I heard that, I was like, that makes a ton of sense, because they'll use him more as a 10, I think, than what he's been using as a, I don't know, how Chelsea use him like as an inverted winger.
Are we agreeing, Paul, that essentially what Newcastle are missing to some extent is that 10 role? Like these three players are all
general consensus to everybody who's a Newcastle fan is that's what they're after. That's what they're missing.
That's what I figured.
Like they've got the strikers, they just need the guys who can create the chances for them. Almiron is really good at that, but he's a winger and he's doing that, so they need somebody more central.
Yeah, and St. Maximin's on the right. They just really need that 10 with
Madison's the best pick out of these three, I think, if you're going to pick one for the Premier League, because of his experience in the Premier League. Like, there's a risk with
Pulisic and João.
Yeah, João Felix. I think the risk is even more with Felix because the Premier League, which we don't know, which is always the one you're not sure if they're going to live up to it or not. Pulisic is kind of not lived up to it for the most part, so you know what you're getting, but that's also risky because it's not good enough probably if they want to have aspirations. And Madison he's won trophies with Leicester. He's their best player. He's got their most goals scored this season. I think he's sought after by many clubs.
Yeah,
we'll have a choice, but they've got the money. So
the reality of it is, though, he's also, if you look at these three guys, the least likely to arrive
for sure.
in January.
Yeah,
he's what they need the most, and he's the least likely to go.
Right. So that's kind of why I look at a João Felix loan or a Pulisic loan as being that
loan's
more likely
loan's a good
stopgap, get you through, and then spend some money. But it feels like it's lining up. Like Madison will either join Arsenal in the summer or Newcastle. If he joins Newcastle in the summer, then we can officially say, all right, well, this new Newcastle with the new money, the new bottomless funds that they have accessible.
Third place right now. Well, I'd be super interested to see what they do in January. Like,
oh my God, what if they
spend like some coin, because they have it, right? It's there. Like this for them is a moment as much as it is for Arsenal to say we're going to have depth in this position and we're going to buy some big players. Newcastle have the funds and the means to do it probably more than any other team in the league at the moment. So their January could put them in a top 4 position if they spend it well.
Yeah. It could, but I think the reality.
I don't think it will, but I think that they have the potentials there.
I mean, the knock that everybody says about every other team that's struggling is that, well, do they have the draw to get these players?
Yeah.
I think the reality is like they have the money, great, but like
the money is sometimes enough.
A struggling Man United is still in a better, more reputable position than Newcastle with their new money. And you can go down the list of these guys.
Unless Newcastle can get top 4. If Newcastle can get top 4, the fucking floodgates will.
And you could
does not affect January though. Like,
it does not affect January. You're right. You're right.
It could affect January because you could bring in players and you could add bonuses to their contract that if you score this amount of goals or do this amount of whatever, like the reward, and get us into top 4, help us get into top 4, you'll be given more money. So that's
I think they last January they can get guys in that they have no business getting.
Yeah,
right. But there's still kind of a ceiling to how good those players are within the market.
Loan you did, Paul, is the key. I think that's the key. What you said before, like a loan, because the player's not given into going. I'm going to go.
Pulisic loan would work out.
Yeah, I'm not going to go live in Newcastle forever, but I'm going to go have an experience for 6 months and see how that goes. And whatever. I can see that working.
If I had to put money on Pulisic alone
I
makes
think
the most sense for all parties involved.
Yeah.
I don't even know if like Chelsea would look at a Pulisic loan to Newcastle as being competition with somebody else in top four. Like I think they wouldn't.
I was going to bring
really...
that up.
They should.
They should. They should. If they
should look at it.
Will.
I think the thing they'll realize is likely is that he hasn't worked out at Chelsea, and what they're giving Newcastle is a defective player to some extent. But that comes down to the coaching sometimes too. You know, Newcastle, Eddie Howe's done a great job with young players and knows how to get the best out of them. So maybe you're going to see a different Pulisic at a Newcastle side than what you'd see at a Chelsea side, even though it's hotter there now. It's a different
for 3 games before he gets injured.
Yeah, exactly. True, exactly.
Tottenham though, Brian, relatively quiet. As far as I know, not a lot of injuries, not a lot of like real concerns coming out of the World Cup. That's got to be nice. In fact, I think you're probably healthier going out of the World Cup than you were going in that Son is going to be available because it wasn't for some time before you went in.
Romero
January plans and the January rumors are not overly consistent. Ruslan Malinovsky from Atalanta is a creative midfield player that was recently attached to you guys.
Not somebody I'd want to see at Spurs.
It feels like even if he was, it's going to be like a sprinkle of something instead of like an actual like, okay, well, this is going to help us get to the top 4. This is exactly the kind of caliber of player we need. But I don't know. I haven't really heard a lot of.
So there's an article that came out in the Athletic today or this morning or last night. I guess it would have been UK time, talking about Conte's new contract. And there's a big thing about his new contract. And based on what we've seen previously and there's a couple different camps as to how you see what's happening with Spurs. Is he going to be backed by the club? If he doesn't get backed by the club, does he leave? Is he just saying that? And the second one is he just saying that as a threat to try to make sure that Levy gets him what he needs because he kind of plays mind games like that, like with the media, with his people he works for. He's been doing it for years. It does look like that's the case, but it also might look like the club's not going to back him, which is also something we've seen from the club as well. So we're kind of in this what's going to happen. We need a creative midfielder, and we need at least a right back, another right back, and another center half. Those 3 positions need to be sorted. Pretty sure that's what Conte knows we need to sort. He's going to do his best to probably try to get them. We may see something similar to what we saw last January, where we don't spend a ton of money, but we spend the money well with contacts with Paratici and the people he knows in Italy. But that will be very specific, and there's risk involved in that. But it's also the likelihood that we don't, because Levy's apparently come out and said he doesn't have any money to spend. So, but that's, again, we've heard it before. 2 camps. We'll see what happens.
Do you think right now that they need to spend to finish in top 4? Do you think?
Yes,
top 4 is still safe?
I actually think Conte can make decisions with his squad to probably get us closer to it. But I do think he has to give up this thing with the right back situation and his insistence that Royale should play. Jed Spence should be given starts in that position moving forward, and hasn't been. And he's been a player that we spent money on in the summer. And now we're looking to spend money there again when we've got like 4 of them. I feel like there's some mismanagement going on with the position and some ego happening there. And I do think we really need a creative midfielder. I don't think if we don't do those things, top 4 is going to be really tight. I think we could get it, but it'll depend on what happens with other teams. But it'll be, I think we have to spend in a couple of key positions, and hopefully that the rest of the guys stay fit and we can get rolling again going forward. Because
any names that you want to see attached to Tottenham?
Names in particular in those positions. I mean, I what's his name? Who plays for Morocco on the right hand side? I don't see him coming to Spurs, but
Ziyech?
No, as a right back. Man, brain farting here, guys. Sorry.
Hakimi? Are you
I know you laugh, but that was a conversation that came up last summer. So it came up in Spurs News. Spurs News. And again, I don't put a ton of weight into it, but it's a type of player you're looking for. And
the best right back in the planet.
Yeah, of course. Of course. We sold the best right back on the planet. When we had Kyle Walker before he went to Man City 5-6 years ago. So so you're looking for those types of players, and I'm not saying we're going to get them, but that's what we're looking for if we're going to crack on and put ourselves in the conversation.
So I asked you if you had any names attached, and you just dropped the best right back on the planet.
That's the name that I would like to attach.
Attached from last summer.
I also said that we have enough in the squad to use what we have in that position. It's just the manager doesn't want to use it.
Whatever happened to the kid who came back from Germany? Isn't he right back? What's his name? Shit. Sessignon.
No, he plays left back.
Oh, he's a left back. Okay, my bad. Never mind. Move on.
Moving on.
It's a frustrating position. Hakimi wasn't a conversation. Who else I could think of who played that position? Nobody in the World Cup stood out specifically. That I would say, I would take Kieran Trippier back at Spurs to fill a position, especially with his free kick. I think he offers a lot. But
okay, this isn't like a wish list of anything you want. It's more like
the likelihood is nobody, Paul. The likelihood is nobody. I said that already. I think.
I mean, let's be clear what the question was. Is there anybody you'd like to be attached to? And you just listed off 2 unobtainable players.
You said
I thought maybe you had done some kind of short list of maybe achievable players, but I also realize not everybody's obsessive about transfer windows and prioritizing their team's windows.
It's not even that. It's just who's available that fits the position that's good enough. Like there aren't a lot of right backs that I could think of that I would be like.
We're going to talk about him in a second because he's attached to my team, Man United. But Jozovic for Croatia, he plays for Celtic right now. He is an interesting, really fit, I think.
Get him in,
Yeah, maybe. But you guys are weird because you guys only it's not a right back you need to run. It's a right wing back, which kind of opens up.
Very particular.
Sergio Dest.
That's what I'm saying. We already have it. Like I think Jed Spence and playing with Matt Doherty and Jed Spence and fuck off Royale for another position. Those 2 players can do the job, but Conte doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do that for some reason, even though it makes no sense to us as Spurs fans for the most part. So I wish I had names. Sorry, Paul.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You let me down. It's fine. So Man United, this is
look at how much work he did on the Man United plan.
This is more indicative.
I see JP's head sticking up in between them.
Yeah, this is more indicative of the craziness of the rumors that attach to this team every single January than it is me doing more work because it's my team. It's a gong show. Every day there's a new player attached to this team.
Oh, it happens to my club as well. It's just mostly useless.
I mean, Brian, we're not on the same levels.
I didn't say we were on the same levels. I just said rumors are every.
I know, but the Man United rumor mill is next level to any other club on the planet because
it's every Yahoo who's played.
Everybody who's ever kicked the ball before, yeah.
Anybody who wants to get their highlight video seen on YouTube will say, "Oh, we're attached to Man United." It's nutsy. But we do know is that Rafael Varane and Martinez, our 2 starting center backs, will probably not be available for maybe the first couple of games because both of them were in the World Cup final, and that obviously Cristiano Ronaldo is out the door, which leaves us a little short for the next few games, which I think are pretty critical for defense because we're left with Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, and that's not good.
Maguire had a good tournament though; he was one of the better players.
It does not make him a Premier League player. It does not mean he's good at playing at 4 in the back. It means he's probably better.
Southgate is really he has some dirt on Southgate, and Southgate does not want to get it put out in the public.
No, he's fine. He's a good international player, JP. He doesn't need to be a good Premier League player to play well for England. He's proven that many times. So
he's shockingly good for England. I will give him that.
Yeah, it's a different style of play. It's a different kind of thing. It's not the Premier League. It's different.
It's actually my biggest gripe is with Southgate, but that's a different story.
So it looks like, if I could say, the most likely candidate for coming in, which is kind of not a great fit, is that Gakpo for PSV. Looks like it's probably going to be happening sometime in January.
A lot of money.
Where does he play for you?
No, it's only 40. It's only 45 million.
Oh, I thought it was a lot of money. 70.
No.
Where does he play in for who? Who does he come in for?
Gakpo would come in and he can play. He's flexible enough to play across all 3 of the front positions.
He was a 9 for the Dutch, though, right? He was basically.
He's like a 9 to a right wing.
False 9.
They kind of played a 2-striker system. Him and Memphis Depay.
He's
not really a 9. He plays more off the left.
Off the 9 kind of thing, right?
So there's a lot of talk of Rashford plays down the middle, he plays out on the left, or does Erik ten Hag want to convert him into a striker? What we know is that in a certain league, in the Dutch league, he scores goals for fun. What does that mean in the Premier League? I take a lot of heat off.
Rarely anything, but every now and again you get lucky.
But you guys love Dutch league players right now.
Yeah.
Dutch manager. What else?
Honestly, Yes.
Who knows him better?
Anthony.
Right?
I mean, we just are. I don't know if you noticed, but the guy we signed, who was Dutch from the Dutch league, not Dutch, but from the Dutch league, just won a World Cup. So I got no problem. Like, as long as they keep performing well,
I'm just
fine with
saying, you guys have been recently shopping pretty heavily in the Dutch league. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
good spot.
But also emerging in an interesting turn of events is Thuram, which is probably not how you say it, but the French striker,
Marcus Thuram,
who is possibly available in January for 10 million.
Yeah, cheap. His contract is out in the summer, I believe. So
where's he playing? Sorry, I missed you.
He plays,
Mönchengladbach, you said?
Yeah. But he's the French striker that was the French striker for France just this tournament. Like, he was that big fella that was running around.
Yeah, the other guy, when Giroud didn't play, he played.
Yeah.
He is massive, by the way.
Big fella, yeah, big fella.
He is big.
He's a big body.
Fast. God, like, who does he remind me of? He is
he's gonna go somewhere. I can see him going to United. I don't think he's a main guy. I think he comes in as a backup option, but for 10 million,
it's like,
we're fine with that. He's
gonna have so many options.
But unfortunately, the reality is, unless a striker that can reliably score 10 goals for the remainder of the year is brought in at Man United, they're not finishing in the top 4. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
Liverpool hit up with some pretty unfortunate injuries. Diaz out for what I think might be the entire season.
Yeah.
And Jota
really
still not. Yeah. Jota's still not recovered yet. And I think he's still going to be out for some time.
Those are 2 big misses for a team that's kind of desperate for that front three a new front three to click properly, right? Wow. I didn't know Diaz was out. I heard him injured, but I didn't realize he was out for that long. I thought it would be.
Yeah. He suffered a setback. He was on recovery and then he suffered a setback. And that's
part of it. So
he just sent him back like months.
Man, Liverpool in the mud a little bit would be with
they can't catch a break.
Yeah.
They can't, but they're going to be well rested. They didn't have a lot of guys actually sent to the World Cup.
They didn't need to for like 3 seasons. They got away with it.
Yeah. I mean, they could come back really strong next year if they're all healthy, but we'll see.
There is a lot of talk that Memphis Depay to Liverpool makes some sense.
That's a good.
It makes a lot of sense.
He is likely available. Barcelona don't play him very often. He doesn't cost a lot. He
20 million.
I honestly
do a little bit of what Barca does, and a little bit of what Mane used to do. He's got from that left hand side.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I can see the Mane in Memphis Depay a little bit.
Similarly, like from that side of the pitch too, in a front.
Yeah, they're pretty quick. They have a decent build, not a big guy, but they're not selfish either.
Yeah,
they're really and they can score goals. Yeah. You know, has an eye. I like that.
Yeah. So let's say this then, with the position they're in now, going into the rest of the season, if they were to sign just Memphis Depay, do you think they have enough to go in top 4?
I'd say no. I'd say no immediately.
I don't think they have the midfield for a top 4 right now.
And that's where it comes down to, because they're not going to get midfield.
No,
they're strongly
they're saving every penny for Bellingham.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where they sort of wait it out until they get him, and then they'll build around him.
Yeah,
which is smart, actually. I mean, as much as it's nice to finish in the top 4, that they're going to have enough money to spend.
They don't want to buy the wrong guy.
To spend well and to maintain the sort of levels.
Who do they get?
I mean, I'm going to throw this out because
I don't know.
I'm not a Liverpool guy, obviously. I am going to throw this out. Are we not being a little dismissive of Klopp and his guys who have been in this situation before and who know how to get back into a race?
Ish. I mean, they have gotten themselves from, I think they were 9th or 10th or whatever in the last couple of games. They got themselves to 6th. So they're still 7 points out of 4th. So there's a distance there that, I mean, I know that they made up 14 points. I think it was it last season, but they had the whole season to do it. They've got a half the season. They got a pretty depleted squad. So I think it's going to be, despite how good Klopp has been at doing that, I think it's just a bit too much maybe this season. I think with the sort of transition they're going through, they have too much to do to get themselves there. They'll be in the conversation. They'll drag themselves kind of moments here and there where they're like, oh, Liverpool might get themselves back in, but I don't think they'll quite make it.
I don't think 4 points is enough of a jump. I think they could easily grab that between now and the end of the season. I think fourth could definitely be it.
It's 7 points between.
Sorry, I apologize. I still think 7 points is doable.
I think it's doable, but I think because of their injuries.
But this isn't the same as last year because of who is injured. Because of this isn't the old Liverpool where it was all the guys that have now kind of a lot of them are starting to age out, right? And Firmino is just not getting it done like he used to do. Henderson's
He's having a great season. Firmino, he's having his best season in a couple of seasons. No, he's been scoring goals, been assisting. He's actually when he's played very well for them. He's been one of their standout players.
You can't guarantee he's going to make it 25 games.
Yeah, consistently. Whether he'll do it for a whole season, whether he'll stay fit
if
he's been injured.
Well, they've got Darwin Núñez for a reason. Like
right, totally. If they get top 4, it should be a successful season for them based on where they are right now.
Started right.
Based on where they're right now, the injuries they got, where they're at, top 4 should be success for them.
And the asterisk of not being in fourth by 7 points has to be said. There's a game in hand for those in fourth, so
it could be 10 points.
The optimistic math, they could be 4 points behind instead of 7 points.
Oh,
sure.
If they win that game in hand,
the optimistic side,
and then 4 points out of fourth, still to play.
It's
Newcastle.
They could lose that game and be 10.
They could.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like one of those ones where, like, if they're not on parity with games played.
Yeah. It's on parity. It's who you play the game that you're missing too. Like if you haven't played City yet, well, that's going to be a little bit, more difficult than if you haven't played Brentford yet,
Yeah. Which is why Arsenal, I think, are a little bit fucked because they still have City to come.
They got a lot twice. Yeah. And they actually had a one of the easier starts of the season.
We all kind of,
we knew that going in.
If they only lose once, they should be happy.
Yeah, well,
it's interesting. They play West Ham in the first weekend. I'm curious, what do you guys think of that? We won't obviously not doing previews and stuff, but that's their first game without Jesus. Is that? Have we done with this, by the way?
No. We're about to talk about your favorite team.
Oh, sure. Anyway, something to talk about. But
this is I don't know. This is where we get into a weird. The guy that wasn't really even that much of a big deal, Broha, who I think everybody was hoping could maybe make a bigger impact up to this point of the season anyways for Chelsea. He got injured. He's out for, I think, the remainder of the season. And Fofana, who they spent a lot of money on as a center back from Leicester, came back, injured himself yesterday.
No way. I didn't know that.
And it re-aggravated his injury. We don't know how long he's out for, but from all reports, the way he walked off the field in a friendly suggested that he's probably emotionally expecting to be back up on the shelf for a little bit. They definitely need something. This new ownership group, this new team of people planning the future of Chelsea seems comfortable spending. There was strong linkage to Cristiano Ronaldo in the summer. Tuchel was the one who said no to that. Tuchel's now been moved on.
Yeah.
Will they go back for Cristiano Ronaldo? I can see that maybe happening, to be honest. And they, unlike Man City, are also in for the big Croatian center back, but are probably looking more for you're coming to our team now. We'll pay against the odds and just give RB whatever they need so they can get him immediately in January. I feel like that's a very difficult transfer to be had in January. So I don't know. I look at Chelsea right now and I just see a lot of holes.
And they're not playing.
Ronaldo's not going to help.
They're playing shit. Even when Potter's come in and had a couple of moments, good moments, but mostly it's just been it's the same players trying to play a similar system.
I mean Potter's playing with a team assembled by 3 different managers.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, he came in mid-season, so we'll see what happens with.
I think there's an expectation from how good he was with Brighton to what the fact that the quality of the squad at Chelsea should be much higher, but you still have to be with players for a long time to really get them to understand your system. And his system is similar to some extent the way Chelsea play, but it's a lot more reliant on pace and power, and I think a lot more pressing and stuff. And I don't think that the players that are in the Chelsea set are used to doing that.
No, it's not even Potter. It's
systems.
Whoever assembled this team didn't do so the way a manager can
for sure
can rocket. Like
Yeah.
Tuchel's a great manager. His midfield had no like dynamism to it. It had no energy to it. They were just like slow, steady, reliable.
Well, unless they were fit. If they're fully fit, they were fine. It's just
No,
they
were.
They were.
I mean, you could argue that. I guess, but
just not very fast.
Yeah,
they just don't. It wasn't a well. It's still not a well assembled team because nobody really knows who's responsible for assembling this group of players.
Yeah.
Like it still feels like this new American guy is this guy coming in
The
and
Frankenstein.
I think the fact that they won the Champions League has so much weight put onto it when he came in and he did that with the squad he had, and then still weren't great necessarily in the league. The following season, you know.
So I have no problem saying I cannot see Chelsea finishing in the top 4. I think they're like, for me, like I don't want to pick on them too early, but it feels like the writing's on the cards for them already that top 4 finish it's a pretty tall task.
Hard. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done enough games already. They've already done enough. They've had a Tuchel firing. They've had a Potter come in and struggle. They've got injuries galore. They've got older guys. They have a system that doesn't match the personnel. Like they just have a lot of
new
things.
owner who like
has a new owner who's
philosophy of football and everything else.
Who thinks Cristiano Ronaldo is going to save him? Like it's just.
I think that's a disaster signing if they spend the money on Ronaldo. But
I kind of want to.
I hope they do.
That would be so great to see.
I hope they do it. I think it would be hilarious because it would just
final up nail in his coffin.
It's exactly what would be the best / the worst for Ronaldo, and same for Chelsea at the same time. They would just like cut each other down to some extent. It would be like perfect. It's exactly what I want to see.
Yeah. Although
then you never know. Then you never know, right?
They have a lot of like the way they play is so reliant on crossing. You know what I mean? Like they've got a lot of guys who cross the ball into the box. They've got a lot of guys who do the work for Ronaldo. They just don't have a guy who can like finish.
It is clinical in the 6-yard box, and he does have that. So I mean, we could be eating our words at the end of the season.
I will say I haven't watched all the games he's played in the last couple of years. He had it. I don't know that he still has it.
He still had it against Spurs. I still remember what he did to Spurs last season with a hat trick, and it was basically he won the game, and it was like fuck that guy, and that was just last season. So I mean, I don't think it goes away that fast. I mean, I don't think.
Unfortunately, the bias is that you saw one full game with him doing that to your team. I saw all the other games where he was wildly shooting from every weird angle possible.
20 plus goals.
Yeah, but like shooting from ridiculous.
Oh, I agree. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying when you still can score 20 plus goals in a season in all comps, it's still a good return. I'm not saying it's a return of a top club, but it's
last season.
Yeah, he wasn't getting it this season.
Yeah.
No, I think last season he burnt through whatever legs he had. He burnt through the course of the season in the Premier League, and that was kind of like
fair enough.
We were done. That's the top 6. Does anybody have any wild changes to their season previews at the start of the season this year?
Yeah, West Ham is not making.
Bold.
Not wild, by the way. We all agreed.
That's a bold claim.
Completely ridiculous.
You have West Ham no longer winning the league.
No.
Yeah, I don't think.
Sorry, you Irons.
I don't think I have anything wildly different. I did think it was going to take Newcastle longer to get where they are, but it is still only halfway through the season, not even halfway through the season. So I do think that they'll probably, similar to what might happen to Arsenal, is a couple of key players they lose that have been, key to getting them to the position they're in. The depth isn't quite there yet. They will have it probably in the next couple seasons, but I don't think it's there yet. Now they could stay fit and still surprise some people because I think they're being well coached, but I think that's a team that I thought would take a couple seasons before they would be in this conversation, and they're already. So surprised by that.
I don't have them finishing top 4, but I think they're
for me
a welcome invitation to top 7.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think the wild and more the kind of interesting thing about the league, like you can't talk about top 4 like it's
gotten bigger and bigger, which means that the teams are getting better and it's making it more interesting, right? So it's the top. It was like top 4, then it was top 5, then it was 6, now it's 7.
Like increasingly, I think when people talk about players wanting to go to a Champions League team, I think the asterisk will be or a team in the top 7 of the Premier League who competes for Champions League. Because
our chance league, to get in, can I be a part of it?
Yeah, it's like you could go somewhere in Germany and get guaranteed Champions League, or you could play in the most competitive league in the world, which is Premier League, and not always go to Champions League. But to get to the Champions League, you have to beat the best. And then when you go into Champions League, you're going in a strong position where how many Premier League teams do well in the Champions League like routinely now.
Yeah,
it's not a mistake that they're also coming out of the hardest league to get there.
You also know you're going to get paid a shit ton of money,
and
you're going to get paid a shit ton, and the best coaches
are in the Premier League as well. Yeah.
So
which is a draw across the board if you've got good coaching.
Yeah.
It's big for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, Boxing Day, guys. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
All right, how are you guys watching it? Just from home? No
way. I'm going to the pub.
First play at 7:30 in the morning. I'm gonna either turn off my social media and watch it when I get home, or just get up at 7:30 and watch it, which is probably the likelihood. I'll just flip over, turn on my computer, and go.
Me and my friends celebrate Boxing Day like it's a Saturday drinking special. We go down to the pub.
Yeah.
We watch 2 games, not just the Villa game, but usually the game after. We drink, we have a full English breakfast, have a good time, and then we go do something in the afternoon that also involves more alcohol and a fun time. And
it's like a Boxing Day bonanza, man.
And you know what? You wake up at 5 o'clock with a hangover, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, sounds good times, man.
I like everything you just proposed.
Yeah. You should do a vlog of that whole thing. You should. That would be really good content.
Yes. We got Liverpool. If we beat Liverpool, that vlog is happening.
Vlog the whole thing, man. Vlog it when your friends come over. Vlog the breakfast you have, the place you go to. Talk to your friends while you're there. Have a conversation with them. Then do a little bit during the game. Do a halftime, a beginning, like a starting lineup, halftime, post game.
So I just do several different little videos.
Yeah, several different bits of videos, and then give it to myself or Paul. I'll even edit it. I have no problem editing it. Give me that to edit, and I'll put a one.
We'll stitch together with what Luke
Boxing Day vlog with JP in California.
Well, Luke and Azaz, by the way, are going to be at that game.
Yeah, we're gonna have some
which is even great. Which is great. Even better if we can get them to also give us video. And we can pop those in between spots where you're talking about what's going on, and we'll bring Azaz in.
Cool.
Azaz and Luke.
That would be cool.
Good luck getting that video.
I'm just saying, JP. If you've ever wanted to make a video that would go viral, there's potential for that to go viral if you do it.
That's true.
And you just have to take 3 minutes for beginning, like when you first get to the place you're going. 3 minutes when you get there. 3 minutes to talk about the starting lineup. 3 minutes halftime. 3 minutes post game. Done.
That's not what the people want, JP. I want a video every time you finish a beer.
Or when something happens.
I'm on my 5th beer.
We have a drinking rule for Villa. If they score, it's a shot. If they score off a corner, it's 2 shots.
So there you go. You do. Record that part. It's part of the channel. Do it.
That's it.
Part of the video. Make it happen,
boys.
But yeah, good stuff, guys. Good to be back. Too bad.
Didn't make it. Missing,
yeah, but
fuck off, Luke.
Yeah, Premier League is back, boys. Really looking forward to more of this.
Back.
It's exciting.
Like and comment.
Like and subscribe. Smash
fans,
it.
Supporters. Love you guys.
All right. Cheers, guys. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.